Each of us have been at this for more than 20 years, and we're tired. Tired of hearing people think that they have no hope, no future, and that they will simply sit in their cubicles and survive working in IT. Well, we're here to tell you right here, right now, that you can thrive in IT, and we are going to prove it.
Bringing you great stories
About great people in information technology.
that it turns out are just like you. Welcome to Thrivecast. Welcome to Thrivecast. My name is DJ Eshelman. So happy to be with you tonight. And if you're watching the replay of this, whatever time frame you see yourself in right now, it's all good. So great to have you with us today. If you are somebody who's tuning in for the first time, Thrivecast is a show where we talk to industry professionals and sometimes just ourselves and talk about our lives, our careers, and everything except for how to do the technology. We leave that for other broadcasts. Right now, we're all about life. And so that is why I'm really glad to have tonight's guest on. But before we do that, let's bring on my co-host, Jeff Pitch. Greetings. You are on mute.
Yeah, hey, mute, it's a technology thing.
Yeah.
Man, you had me fooled. I thought you were going to say, I'm so happy to be with my co-host. And no, you went right, skip me. I see how it is. But I like this if you're looking at the chats. I mean, midnight in Germany, in EMEA. I mean, this is amazing stuff.
Dedication right there.
And it's not because of us.
Well, yeah, obviously. So, yeah, greetings. We have about 30 people on YouTube, some people on Facebook and Twitch. It's great to see you all here live. But more importantly, let's get to our guests. So, what can we say? What I say is that our next guest is somebody who literally put Citrix on the map. That actually was the kind of the guiding light, the point at which everything started to start working to be a global company. So he was at Citrix for more than 20 years as president and CEO. When he started, about 15 million in business with a single product. And then when he left, over $3 billion with 100 million users of multiple products worldwide. That's not a small thing.
And I would add that, I mean, let's be honest, everyone showing up tonight, us, if it wasn't for him, I'd be working a totally different career. I mean, I think he's had a hand in everybody's career at this point, whether knowingly or unknowingly.
Yes, indeed. And actually, what I'll say here, and I'll wait to tell the rest of the story, but Mark and I share a vision, and we had some time talking about this before that was really great. Yeah, it's been fantastic. So I'm actually trying to put some messages up as they come along here. I'm probably going to just let this go, but there's a couple others I wanted to get to before we bring Mark on, because there's just a ton going here. So, wow. Yeah. Tom says hi from Switzerland. Very late there. Let's see. Yes, we are here. Esther, we are here to cheer on a very natural and charismatic leader. Let's see here. Yeah. Yes. Familiar names for Chris. Yes, indeed. JD says hi to Pop Guard, and yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's good. And Laura. Hey, Steve. Hey, Matt. Hey, my buddy Michael Torian. Awesome stuff.
You got to do the last one that's up there, man.
The Deej abides. That's all we're going to say about that, JD. The Deej abides. Yes, indeedy. All right. Enough of this funny business. Let's bring on the man of the hour, Mr. Mark Templeton. Hello, sir.
Hey, everyone. This all of these chat messages and the beautiful messages and your kindness. I just, it feels like, a synergy keynote where I come out crying as opposed to dancing and smiling and to the Moody Blues. So it's just great to be here. And someone said it's like a family reunion. And, I want you to know that feels that way to me. And I love it. I absolutely love it. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, this is probably the first time on our live show that we've had this much cross interaction. So you really do seem to bring out the best in people, I swear.
Well, I think, yeah, Steve, right. Knights in white satin.
And I honestly, I looked into whether we could do that as intro music, but I couldn't confirm the copyright fast enough. So I didn't want us to get blocked. Last time we did something like that on a live video, we got shut down. So I didn't want to take the chance. So
yeah, no, it's not worth it. And by the way, I'm not going to do any Moody Blues karaoke tonight because I do like to do karaoke, as a lot of you all know, but I'm not doing any karaoke tonight. But yeah, so but the Moody Blues is still deeply in my heart.
Right. I just realized I have a record sitting over here on the shelf, but I won't go get it tonight. We'll let it go for today. Like I said, don't want to get banned or whatever. So I'm going to give 2 more minutes for people to say hi in the comments, and then I'm going to just push that aside, and we're going to get to our episode, because this is just great to see.
I think we could sit here the whole hour and
Simon, Jason, Laura, Chris Rogers. Good to see you, man.
I see there's some disappointment that I don't have my Paisley. No, it's let me just tell you, it's not far away. And I will tell you, there's a story here. One of our good friends and Citrix family members, all right, Todd Sue, who now has a company called Farouk Systems. Mm-hmm. He had this made custom for me. It's a vest, of course. All right. And I think a lot of people maybe on the broadcast know Todd, but he had this made custom for me, in as a part of our long friendship. And, so I'm not the Moody Blues, and Paisley is not far from my heart. But today I just have my boring flannel shirt on.
Laura says, "Say yes to the vest." That's
well, I have to say that as at Citrix, as time went on, I got more and more. I don't want to. I got more and more comfortable in my own skin, which I think is a normal thing, as you age and as you make decisions about what matters and what your principles are, and what you'll go to the railroad tracks on, and so forth. Mm-hmm. And so Paisley just became something that it was so meaningful to me, and it was a little weird on stage. The marketing people didn't like it because it didn't translate to video well, blah, blah, blah. But, it is, I love it, and it's meaningful to me. But it took a while for me to get there.
I just love that Kurt asked how many devices did the vest hold, and the very next person to comment was Brad Peterson. So
yeah, I'm not letting Brad near this vest.
Outstanding.
This was handmade and designed for me. So I'm not. I mean, I think I think when Brad told the story, he said he went to J.C. Penney or Jacques Penney over the weekend and bought $25 vest, $25 jacket that was and he paid full list price for it, by the way.
Oh, sure.
Had all those pockets put in it.
Nordstrom's, he says.
Okay. All right. Nordstrom's. Okay. Wow. He really was going big.
Yes, indeed.
I think I think you're right, Mark, about growing into your own skin, your own shoes, and getting comfortable with that. It's yeah. I mean, it's an amazing thing. You think back to the first time you did it, or the first few times, and you're like, man, I am a completely different person now. Just really? Being up on stage from that perspective.
Yeah. No. I mean, I think when I think back on that sort of journey in that sense, first of all, the audience I was most fearful of was Citrites. Okay. Because, I don't know why, but I just was most fearful of my own team. And, there's probably some deep psychological reason for that I can't explain. And then in the early days, after being appointed, CEO, those first iForums, and Thynergy, if you remember Thynergy, all right, I was reading off of a teleprompter. And it was because I felt so insecure in front of everyone. And I didn't want to let anyone down. And I felt like if I wrote it down ahead of time, I could guarantee to myself that I would fulfill the expectations. And I was terrible on a teleprompter. I mean, it was awful, and it took years for me to learn that, really people want to hear what you have to say from your heart.
Yeah.
And not, all digital.
And I think it's hard to generate excitement, when you're reading off the prompter and stuff, because you're focused on that, not on, the vibe that you're putting forth. Absolutely.
Yeah. So right, Jeff. I mean, I remember the biggest lesson and the biggest evidence for that was, so, in 2001, we made that video, right? The virtual workplace.
Yeah.
That, it was iconic for the company in so many important ways. So, I get on stage. I was sort of semi on the teleprompter. I completely botched the intro. The video played, and we were all, those of us that were involved in it, we were all like, this is the day. It was like Christmas morning. Okay, Santa, Santa's here. And we're, so I completely botched the sort of context. And then the video played, and I expected there to be, like cheering or some kind of reaction, but it was crickets in the audience. I mean, it was like total crickets, And I always explained to people, it was like, hey, in the audience, hey, I know these guys are from Florida. They must be smoking some pretty crazy stuff that they're getting from across the water or something, but it was really disappointing. And it was because it was trying to be scripted and wasn't really, from the heart, right. Even though it was created, in some, there was an intellectual aspect of the creation and an analog creative aspect too, but it really proves what you just said, Jeff,
Yeah. Well, there's something about that organic quality of, it just shows the character of a company too, it really, but yeah, it's good to have kind of a pushing forward, but at the same time, maintaining who you are. It's very, very, very crucial. So,
yeah, I mean, I think the hardest thing that leaders at any level, managers, et cetera, face is authenticity. and whether that's, and that's really all about being yourself and knowing yourself and knowing, what you're good at and not so good at, and being willing to admit it, and being able to tell your team that, and ask them to fill in around you, and push you. And it's a hard thing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, DJ. I was going to say, I mean, I've never been a CEO of any company, but I mean, I got to imagine that is hard to do, to go out there, because you are putting yourself out there. You are the head of the company, and what you say or do, I mean, could potentially affect the company. And I think you see it a lot, and of CEOs or whoever go out there, they do their thing, they come back. It's just expected. But the fact that you were coming out, being authentic, and I mean, that's really what people love to see is, what? I'm human, as they say. I put pants on one leg at a time, just like everyone else. And that's it. And that's, that's why, you were so great to watch. It was fun to go to, an opening night event and things like that, because you just never quite knew, but it was always fun.
True.
Yeah, I think probably the best compliment I ever got was someone said, "Mark, you make me feel like I could be CEO." And that.
Yeah, that's a huge statement. Yeah.
That's just a huge statement, because, I mean, because, part of leaving the world better than you found it is to touch people and enable them to be the best that they can be, and have ambitions, maybe not ambitious, but have ambitions that are, of honorable intent. And so that, I got a lot of, I mean, I've had so many amazing, sweet comments, and, whatever. I'm getting a little choked up, but that's one that has stayed with me in a powerful way.
Yeah. Well, I think we've set the stage pretty well here. So what I want to do is click the right buttons. I'll make sure to do that. But I want to say, first of all, thank you all for your comments. We're going to keep trying to keep an eye on both. It's riveting, but just thank you all for your support. We appreciate it. But Mark, what I want to do is I want to kind of unpack this a little bit so that we can have some as you know, on this show, we try to bring not only what is and what was, but kind of what led up to that, so that people know that there's a pathway to that. So what I want to do is kind of go back in time a little bit and talk about your origins and how you went from there to here. So maybe take us back to like where you grew up and that sort of thing, and kind of walk us through how in the world we got to this crazy CEO that cares about people. What? Yeah. Walk us through that process.
Well, like most life stories, they're really going to root themselves at home when you're a child, growing up, and what your family was about, what your parents were about, their values, etc. And so my family is from rural North Carolina, outside of Charlotte, but it's too long a story to tell. But my dad was in the Navy and met my mom, who is a Brooklyn-raised Italian immigrant girl, and so living in North Carolina was not really, an option back in those days for an Italian girl. And So I grew up in Huntington, New York. It's a place on Long Island. It's sort of the geographic center of Long Island, and my dad was an electrician, and my mom was a homemaker. And then, like most families, as time went on, I'm the oldest of four, and mom needed to go out and work part time to to afford a second car, and instead of driving dad to the train station in our 1958 Volkswagen Bug, and which I wish I had today, by the way.
Right.
Uh, and so she was the first woman employee of McDonald's, on Long Island.
Okay.
And my mom was always, she's an artist, so very much a trendsetter, and not a follower. And the worst thing you could ever do is go home and say, "Hey, mom, I want to do this because DJ's doing it and he's cool." It's like, no, you march to your own drum. Okay.
I love it.
And my dad, as an electrician, he, showed me what a true work ethic was about, because, it took moonlighting to make ends meet. And so I learned to be an electrician's apprentice on
Okay.
weekends. And honestly, it's kind of where I learned not only work ethic, but what it means to be a great follower. Because my dad would say, "Okay, look, this is, how this works. We're going to pull this wire. We're going to, wire up these outlets or switches or whatever the task was. And your job is to, think ahead and give me the tool or the material I need next before I ask for it."
Okay.
And so, I'm watching that, and it took a little time to learn, but okay, next it's a screwdriver, or he needs a Phillips head, he needs a flathead, he needs an outlet, he needs a switch, he needs, whatever. And, I think that taught me, everything about being a good follower of a leader.
Yeah.
And I think being a good follower is a prerequisite to being a good leader.
Ooh.
And the other thing that I learned from my dad, that I think will probably explain a lot, is, he's an electrician for a long time, and then, a lot of outdoor work, etc. So he took a job as a shipping clerk. And eventually he was promoted to head of the shipping department. And then he went to a different department. And then over holidays and summer, I got to work with him and in his department. And I would watch him give everyone assignments. All right, today, well, this is what we have to do. So, DJ, you need to do this. Jeff, you need to do that. Rachel, you need to do that. Tom, you need to do that. And then he would say, and then I'm going to do this. And oftentimes he took the crappiest job. And so, the example he set was one of respect, and he had a very diverse workforce. I mean, and my dad was completely color, race, religion blind. All right.
Yeah.
All that mattered to him was, were you on the team?
Were you going to be a team player? Exactly what I was going to ask. Yeah.
That's it. He just wanted you on the team. And he made it, and he made it feel good because he participated, and he never put himself above everyone else. So a lot of those, things really burnished the belief system that I have, that I brought to Citrix, actually.
Yeah. So did you go to school for anything specific, or?
Yeah. So, it's funny thing is I went to, so we lived in a very modest neighborhood in Huntington, but Huntington is very generally known to be a, upper middle class kind of place. And so the schools were great. So I went to this school where like 82% of graduates went to college,
Okay.
and no one in the Templeton family had ever gone to college.
Ah,
So, I had no expectations of going to college. In fact, the first college campus I ever stepped onto was North Carolina State when I showed up as a student.
okay.
Yeah, it's true. But the honest truth is, I went to NC State at first to study engineering.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Lots of family, and still have lots of family there. And so I wasn't escaping, my parents as much as I was going to a place where I felt really comfortable.
Okay.
Yeah, so I went to NC State, and, again, to keep the story short, eventually I moved from engineering to product design, and I studied product design at the School of Design there, which was modeled after something called the Bauhaus, which was really the original school of modern design in Germany, and so which produced an amazing number of architects and designers, that impacted the world, even till today. So that's where I went to undergraduate school, and the great thing about that kind of education, sort of the teaching the creative process,
Yeah.
is that, what you learn is, well, you learn to dissect things and, frame and reframe a problem. And because, as usually things go, kind of how you ask the question matters. It will mean a lot to how you get to a creative answer and solutions and all. And so that education was great because, there weren't any answers. There weren't any answers. So you had to stand up and defend your thinking, the questions and your thinking, and how you solve the problem. It's a
I
great.
think that's sorry.
No, it's a very, very Socratic, kind of experience.
I'm taking notes like a madman here. Just so you guys know, I'm looking down. I'm actually writing notes like right now.
I think that's a great thing you just said, Mark, which is sometimes it's not asking a lot of questions. It's asking the right questions in the right way. And I think that's something. I mean, I know I try to work on it when I'm doing, like, even just, scoping things or whatever. It's, if you ask something in a slightly different way, you can discover things that were never going to come up or something, the hidden surprises of an infrastructure or something. And that's I love that.
Yeah. I mean, I stole this saying from Steve Jobs. I usually gave him credit for it, but not always. Okay. But your point of view is worth 50 IQ points. And point of view is another way of expressing, how you ask questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is like, oh gosh, I had something for this. How your mind is transformed by the process of answering or asking questions. What I was going to. So how you ask first or listen first, like you were saying earlier about a good follower being a good leader. It's kind of the same thing with listening. Is like you need to take that in. So you're asking the right questions, and that forms how you lead. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And, the thing about leadership, whether it's, it could be a small team, could be a big team, it doesn't really matter. Okay. Is that, people are looking to you, first of all, as a role model. And you need to wake up every day and realize that you're not some anonymous person. And if you just want to sort of get a sense for that, just think of yourself when you were younger and you were around someone who you admired and they walked by, or you saw them on stage or wherever they were, okay? And how big a deal that was to you as a younger person. Well, as you get older, you get into that same place. You go from sitting in the classroom as a student, through maybe being a teaching assistant, to then being, the faculty member at the front. And it doesn't matter how big or small the class is. You are a role model. And if you don't accept, and you have to remember that, and accept that. I think, we have big issues, generally speaking, in this world around that today. But we won't go there. But that, is an important thing for, feeling good and assuming leadership and being successful with leadership, on an ongoing basis, and to be confident and proud, to lead people.
Absolutely.
But when I graduated from product design, I did well in school. I got awards and all this good stuff. But I didn't. I thought I was a crappy product designer. I never. I thought to myself, "Gosh, I'm never going to make a living doing this." And sort of luckily, it was in the midst of a recession, a big recession. It was 1975. And I landed my first job, which, by the way, started as part-time, as a draftsman. All right. I mean, maybe a lot of people don't even know what that word means. A draftsman is the equivalent, the physical equivalent of running, let's say, AutoCAD. All right. But all, on a drafting table. And I was good at it. I had a lot of training, through my education on it. And I was lucky to work for a company in Garner, North Carolina, called Hamlin Roofing and Sheet Metal. And Fred Hamlin founded the company. He was a Tennessee volunteer engineer. And he had worked on the Manhattan Project.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of people don't know this, but a lot of the core engineers on the Manhattan Project, when the project was sort of, kind of moved on, whatever, I want to say disbanded, but moved on, they took the core engineers and they made them split up. They had to go to different parts of the country.
Okay.
Because Fred was actually from Tennessee. And after working for him for a while, and I loved him so much, and he was such a mentor, and he's the only boss I ever had that was shorter than me.
Okay.
But he said, "Mark, you have to get out of here." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You're not going to reach your potential here. And you need to get out of here. And I think you need to go and get a business education so that you can put, your potential to work in the world of business." And he was it was a blessing, such a blessing. So I kind of got fired. But
I was going to say, that's like the best way to be fired in the world, is to be encouraged to go actually do something that's meaningful in your life. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, look, true, real feedback, hard feedback, and honest feedback um, is pure love. And because it's so easy to not say anything when you're managing people. It's
Right.
just so easy to let it go, and and not say anything. And it's really an act of love when you give feedback. That's why I always say that, um, and I hope I don't get canceled for saying this, but um, that actually being CEO is not the hardest job in the world. The hardest job in the world is being a mother, because um, you know as a CEO, you set goals and you try to inspire and instruct, and all the things that you do. Uh, and guess what? You make mistakes, and you get to fire your mistakes.
Yeah.
Okay, because usually when you're firing someone, you're about 51% responsible yourself. And but mothers don't. Mothers are in a much higher stakes game, and and uh, raising children. And I think Jackie Kennedy says, if you don't, you can't ever, something like, you can't ever be um, do anything greater than raising good children.
Right.
So, so anyway, I kind of, went off track a little bit, but, I really believe that. And so Fred, he really cared. And I'm so blessed to have people like Fred in my life, that cared. And he said, get out of here. So I went to the University of Virginia to graduate business school and got my MBA. And in those days, an MBA was, a little bit of it was a scarce commodity, and you could monetize it, in a big way. So I had 7 job offers when I graduated, and that which is when I made my first major career mistake.
Hmm.
I took the one that paid the most.
Ah.
Uh, and I went, and I'm not saying it wasn't interesting and intellectually challenging and all, but I looked around and the culture was just wrong.
Yeah. So did you have other, I just actually really curious, because I think this is a good thing to unpack. Is this something where you had other options that you knew of that you knew were a better fit culturally, or just?
Yeah, no, there were, well, yeah, I knew there were uh, cultural, there were people that I liked better,
Mhm.
um, but the pay was going to be much different.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, but I went for the pay. And my first job out of graduate school, it paid $17,000.
Mhm.
Okay. And I don't mind telling you, because everyone will recognize what I did. All right. Most people will, at least. I worked for a commercial division of Rubbermaid, and it's the division that made something called a mobile toter. So if you have a green 55-gallon trash can on wheels in your, side yard or whatever, that uh, clamps onto the back of a trash truck and gets dumped, okay, that was my product.
All
And
right.
yep. And so, but the culture of the company was very blue suede shoe and shiny suit, and I didn't really respect the people that I was working with. And so in 6 months, in, which was in those days unheard of, I called the company that had actually, in the end, they had made me the lowest offer. And I didn't choose them because it was the lowest. I chose them because, the culture fit was the best. And and that was Boise Cascade.
Oh, yeah.
And it was the kitchen cabinet division.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean,
I think that's a lesson we all go through at some point. Is you go for the money. You have that feeling, that feeling, but you do it anyway, and then you find out it's just not worth it.
Yeah,
I gotta tell you that this actually is something that hits me literally today, because that's something that's on my mind. And so it's one of those things where it's just like, oh, there's a couple different directions I can go here. Am I more concerned about the money or am I just concerned about where I fit in? And this is a question that we kind of default to, hey, let's just go for the most money, but long term, that doesn't end up with it doesn't actually end up successful in the long term. I mean, I'm not saying that everyone that takes the right job for the right reasons is going to end up a world-changing CEO or anything. Yeah. But there's a progression there of doing the right thing for the right reasons that I believe that there's an abundance that is out there that we can tap into in more ways than just financial, but it tends to just make a kind of a rising column of all these things, and it brings everything up.
Yeah, at the risk of being, too blunt, if you're there are people who are coin operated, and like that doesn't make them bad people. It just means that they're prioritizing the experience lower than the financial reward, perhaps. And for me, I just knew that it wasn't right for me, and I was and the worst thing in the world is to wake up every day and dread going to the office and the people that you're going to be working around. I just think to me that's like a life sentence. So but I do think people can make different choices, and for me it was tough because to admit that you made a mistake in the first major decision after you went to this it's still very prestigious graduate business school, it's kind of like I don't know, it just really felt bad. But at the same time, you have to decide, am I going to move forward, admit I made a mistake and move on. And so I was very, in many ways, so lucky to learn that about myself and about my own experience and what, was important to me early in my career. Because it's like, the money you save when you're like 5 years old, and the compounding of that over a lifetime is massive versus the money you save when you're 50 years old.
Yeah.
So
it's like when you think of even just from a standpoint of investment and returns, absolutely. Yeah, that works.
But even just health and happiness and all of that. I mean, I will admit I have a hard head. It took me a few times to learn the lesson. It eventually got through. Which is one of the reasons, like I've been doing some interviewing this week, and the question I always hate is, hey, what is your expected compensation? And my response is almost always, yes. I mean, we work for money. I mean, that's, we all do, but that's not the most important thing. And, you need to try explaining to them. It's like, I don't, I want to make, between somewhere in here, but yet, if the company's right, the culture's right.
Yeah, that's
I'll take even, right? Take lower for that. Yeah. It's worth it.
Yeah. I've just got to tell you that, at Citrix, the way we would think about compensation is, honestly, it's an obligation, and we're never going to think of it as the reason to attract and retain people. And that means we're going to, pay people competitively. All right. But, you know, and if you want something that's non-competitive, it's like, you're not for us. You don't belong here. Right. And we, and I say we because I think it's more than, my own belief, even though I definitely reinforced it, was that people generally want to, be part of something bigger than they are, in terms of purpose, in terms of goodness. And that retains people much, longer and more effectively. And people do their best work, right? And, I think, we don't need 10,000 Michael Jordans, okay? We need, 10,000 believers and, in the rock band to make the beautiful music.
Exactly.
Yep.
Hey, I tell you what, there's something I forgot to do. We just got going, and I knew this was going to happen. I knew it was
Happens
gonna
every week.
every week. It's like, oh my gosh, we could go on for 5 hours, no problem at all. I promised Mark and Jeff a quick break, so I'm gonna do that real quick, and I am going to kind of let them get a drink of water and grab some tissues, and you might want to do the same, because we're gonna do some walking down memory lane and kind of make this very real about the impacts that have been made here. And then at the very end, stick around because we're going to want to do another chat thing. So I'm going to have you just loosen up your fingers as we're going to do another chat thing and let you just pour some love on Mark, and it's all great. And I'll also be able to tell you about something special we've got. But yeah, I'm gonna have to say, this is gonna be hard for me to get through even. So yeah, there's a lot of things that are very formative about the way my life is going right now and the way things are kind of headed, that are very important to talk about. But at the same time, it can be a little bit daunting on live, but we're gonna do it because we want that level of authenticity, right? So it's very important. So one of the things I wanted to tell you about really quick is, and let me put this on the screen just so we can do that, let Mark kind of get his stretch, is that you can actually grab my new book, personalized by me, on hardcover. This is the soft cover. Behind me, you can see the hardcover. But this is kind of cool. So we're able to do this worldwide. We can actually have me sign and personalize your copies sent out everywhere. And so if it's something where you want to learn more about the methodology or the methods that I've used to be a consultant for all these years and all the things that are valuable to learn about just working in IT, this is my kind of condense it all down, give it to you and let you fly kind of thing. And so the book's called Just Do This. It's available on Amazon, of course, but also directly from us. If you go to thrive-it.com/justdothis, enter coupon code ThriveCast. We've got a special discount for you and some cool things coming up with that as well. So it's thrive-it.com/justdothis to get that, and for you and your team or whoever, and it's awesome stuff. All right, so we got guys back. They've taken their stretch break, and now it's time for the lightning round. Not really.
Yeah, by the way, I saw Rachel's comment, and yes, when I say mother, I mean primary caregiver to children, and that could be a father or a mother. Okay, mm-hmm. And in my family, my wife is the CEO, so I just wanted to, I saw that comment from Rachel, and she's so spot on. And love you, Rachel.
Dude, don't we? Just,
Yeah, no, I mean, I see Esther on here, and I'm not able to like focus on the conversation and read all the
I
chat.
know, yeah, it can be tough
Chance to
sometimes.
read, I'll get a chance to read it, but you
But
know,
so
so
I want to just take maybe 4 or 5 minutes and just walk through kind of when you came into Citrix and kind of what it was then, and kind of how we got to kind of what I kind of refer to as kind of some of the glory years, like the ones where it just exploded. So
yeah,
walk us through a little bit of that, if you would.
yeah. So I joined the company in June of 1995, and as head of marketing. The marketing department was a total of 7 people, including myself. And for my friends out here that are partners, because we always thought of partners as part of the band, and
Mhm.
embraced and tried to express our culture that way. And this little tiny story is I had a guy on the team who it came to 2 staff meetings, so I was 2 weeks in, and was basically, denigrating partners, not specifically, but in general. And so, I went to Roger Roberts, our CEO, and I said, Roger, you know, uh, this guy's got to go. He's in charge of our partner program, and he hates partners.
Mm.
And so Roger said, "Hey, you're the man. Do what you want to do." So, he was gone, and I took that on personally for a while until, I could find someone to take over, and because you have to, to really be a partner, you have to believe, and so I they were about my employee number was 52. So I was the 52nd hire after they started giving employee IDs.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then another couple of weeks, we launched WinFrame, okay, which was obviously a huge deal. And until then, we were only shipping WinView, and
Right.
so we put everything together to do the launch, etc. And then we had to go get ready to scale and build the channel, and put the channel program together, which was a lot of fun. In some ways controversial, because we were the first, I think, to put a pay-to-play program in, and the rationale was pretty simple, and that is we were so small and we didn't have time to waste on partners that didn't have, some stake in the game. And so we put that in place. And then in December of 95, we went public. And we had raised $16 million in funding, which is usually like a Series A today. And it was our Series E. And our trailing 12-month revenue was 15 million. And then sort of the next big event was the fall, the contract and licensing negotiations with Microsoft that were pretty, widely known, because we were a public company and we lost about 60% of our value overnight, because Microsoft said that they may or may not license NT4 to us, and they may or may not be partnering with us. And we had to disclose that to investors, of course. And so, most people don't know this, but Paul Maritz was the Microsoft executive on point at Microsoft at the time. And he's the one that finally sorted all the issues out. And were it not for Paul Maritz, there would be no Citrix. And, obviously, Paul is an amazing man. He went on, obviously, to be CEO of VMware. And And I'm not exactly sure what Paul's doing these days, but I know he had a big ranch in South Africa, which is where he's from. And I had several opportunities to meet and spend time with Paul over the years, and they always started with a Paul, thank you, because it was his vision and his maturity and all that solved the problem. So then that was around, I think, 97. And then after that, our CEO Roger said, "Hey, look, I want to retire," and then I got a lot of encouragement to put my name in the hat because I really didn't want to be CEO. I didn't see myself that way, and but I got a lot of encouragement, and I was truly the only viable internal candidate. And I think we were all worried that the company was too fragile to bring someone in from the outside because it's risky. Okay. So I put my name in the hat, and the rest there is history. And I was appointed president in 98 and CEO in 99. And then, Roger handed over the baton, and he said, first of all, good luck. Secondly, this is a great business. Don't screw it up. And then third thing he said was, make it your own. So I understood the first two things, but it took me years to understand the third. All right. And Roger, is probably singularly the most important mentor in my entire career. And so the 6 quarters in, here I was, CEO of a public company, first time CEO, and I didn't know how to, manage and work with the board of directors. All of these things were new, and I made a lot of mistakes. And so when we missed the June quarter of 2000, we were one of the significant tech names that blew up first in the .com bubble, and so we blew up, and the board basically, in effect, fired me as CEO and made me senior executive officer.
Right.
While we did a public search for a replacement for me, and I had a lot of encouragement and advice to just tell the board how screwed up they were and blah blah blah, and move on and blah blah blah. And I said, no, I love this company and I love this culture. I love what we stand for. So I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stay. And I told the board, I drove us into this ditch, and I'm going to drive us out. And that led to sort of the next big thing, which was, okay, we had, by that time, Metaframe. We were a one-trick pony. Like, what's Act Two? And the truth is, we were faced with either selling the company or coming up with a vision that would, really define Act Two. And that's where the virtual workplace video came from. So, they say necessity is the mother of invention. I mean, that was created, a little bit as a Hail Mary after we had Boston Consulting Group come in and tell us that, okay, there's enough juice left in the market and the company if you flawlessly execute, yeah, I'm telling you, you can't make this up. Flawlessly execute over the next, I think it was 3 or 4, whatever years, and find, additional products to introduce. So, we took that to the board, and the ideas behind the video, And the board said, okay, get on it. And so, so, which then the first thing we did was acquire a company called Sequoia Software.
Mm.
You may remember it. And we completely botched the acquisition. So we spent $185 million. We tore it apart and integrated into all parts of Citrix. We were not mature enough to do that. I wasn't mature enough to know we shouldn't do that.
Mm.
And in 6 quarters, we shut it down, which was, as I think of the, top 10 hardest things in my career, that'll be one of them, because it was 225 families that, we had to say we no longer have, job and career for you.
Right.
And it was really painful. It was painful. And so it was one of the few times I jumped up and down on the boardroom table in front of the executive team
Mm.
and, just said, look, we can't do this again because this isn't right. This is just wrong. And so that then put us on a path to the acquisitions we did. The next one we did was Expert City, which was GoToMyPC,
Yeah.
which made a lot of sense to people. That became GoToMeeting and a big chunk of the business. Then the next problem so that was an opportunity. And we took it, and it was a really great decision and a great team. And we decided to keep it separate because it was a different business model,
Right.
and served, a different customer, in segment wise. So then the next thing that happened was, we were then looking at the video, but then the translation was, from a technical people, we needed to follow apps wherever they were going and follow people wherever they were going. All right.
Yeah.
And part of following people was sort of device independence, and following apps was app independence. So that's what led to the acquisition of NetScaler, because NetScaler was an application delivery controller for web apps. Not too complicated. And, it also had VPN capabilities, and VPNs were also important to us because if we didn't control the VPN, we were allowing something else to get between the head
Right.
end, metaframe, and the client, and we were a symmetric, kind of a system. So, so the glory days, when we think of the glory days, it was really this string of pearls, and I'm only hitting the big, spots here at this point. But it was the string of pearls, some of which we tucked in, that made metaframe stronger and more competitive, helped, us move from ICA to HDX,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And in those days, we were totally focused on app delivery, and very much trying to build out the infrastructure, to match the metaphor of DirecTV, because we believe that centralized computing and applications that could be delivered to any screen was just so core to collaboration and to the growth of IT, in business. So those were amazing times. And we also, if a lot of people will remember, we were great believers in the licensing model that was, basically a usage-based model where, anybody could use a license. We didn't. It wasn't licensed on a specific person basis and all. And I think customers just loved it because they could do a lot of things, use cases with that kind of a licensing model. And it was a big deal when we changed that and we added the per user and the per device model on top of it. So, there were a lot of sort of seminal moments along the way until finally mobile became, a huge, and by the way, I think Steve Greenberg's saying 3 cheers for concurrent licensing. Yeah, and we had so many people advising us to give it up, but and everyone out there, should know this, that whenever these ideas would come up, like raising prices or changing the licensing, and there was a time when we didn't have a license server. So, once we put the license server in, you could do follow the sun. And so the license server could serve licenses to Japan while people in, England were sleeping, And so everyone said, oh, this is where we have to raise our prices and everything. I said, okay, I'm willing to listen, but come in. I'm the customer. Now give me the pitch. Yeah. And so the pitch was, in the end, hey, Mr. Customer, let me tell you something I need you to do that's good for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And, maybe we've been a bigger company and all of that, but we wouldn't have been prouder, okay, for sure. And I don't know what would have happened, actually. But, those principles really guided us. And so the formula for the company and the Citrites on the call and partners on the call will remember this, and you remember, DJ, I'm sure, because I had this slide, I made it one time and used it thousands of times, and that is what our formula was: employee value plus customer value. Yeah. Right? Employee value was about culture, and customer value was about really delivering something that was useful and valuable to a customer, duh. And if you do that every single day, because there was a plus sign in the middle, yep, then what you get is a lot of things. You get pride and purpose. That's an upward spiral, and you get amazing shareholder value too. So, but I never had a slide that had an equal sign because,
right,
because it really, it wasn't the outcome, it was the inputs that were important.
Exactly.
I want to tie back two things you have said that it now makes sense. At the beginning, you talked about how you went up on stage and botched the intro of the video. And then you came back, and now recently you just said we had to be flawless in our execution. I think that gives a better understanding of the mindset you might have been in doing that first presentation of the video and why it was botched. And I can't imagine the pressure that would be.
Yeah, no, yeah, maybe. It's an interesting insight, because, what's going on in the back of your brain, you probably don't have that consciousness to really, to be connected to it, but it is defining, a lot of what you're feeling and saying and how you're saying things,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I still remember the video today. And I think the amazing thing about that video was, looking back at it now, is a lot of what you were showing how people would work just were not around. I mean, we didn't have the smartphones, the tablets, and all this stuff that we have today that you look at it now and go, well, yeah, anyone could have done that. But no, not back then. We had no clue what was coming.
Yeah, the interesting thing, so the way that came about is we ended up with a whiteboard, and we had to sort of boil things down, and we ended up with a list of 10, sort of beliefs that we wanted to express. And one of them, the 10th one, was an acknowledgement that tech companies are born around tech, and around tech people, and but customers buy value in the end, right? And
Right.
so if you don't, as a tech company, get beyond the tech, you'll never really reach your full potential.
Yeah.
So the 10th thing on the list was all about really making a difference for, the people that we served, and it's where the expression, work better, live better probably came from. And it's why the video didn't feature any products or anything, it was all about, the experience, including at the end that someone was able to, go to their anniversary dinner, albeit late, I guess, as kind of a little bit of a nod to to reality. But, that was important. That was really an important aspect of it. And so these things, I think today, some of them, most of them, or many of them, we take for granted, but some of them are still just happening now, and it's 20 years since we made the video.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, really, it's in 10 years, really before Apple came out with the iPhone and the smart device explosion happened. And it really is amazing looking back at that video and seeing all that.
Yeah. Hey, DJ, I'm going to do this. Now, if you remember the video, the guy had, a folding smartphone device, but it had a screen on the outside. All right. So now here's the new Microsoft Duo. All right. All right. Yep. So, they're 2/3 of the way there because there's no screen on the outside.
Well, the new Samsung, I think, does, if I remember right.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Maybe
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. But it's amazing. Like I was talking actually with my oldest about the folding phones. And, it's I told him, I said, those will become the norm. But right now, they're really just working through a lot of the kinks. Yeah. And I do think, my opinion is that, Microsoft has the best solution right now, because if you look at what the Samsungs have done and everyone else that's actually tried to do that, there's always there's always a problem. There's always something that gives. But
yeah, I think that's right. And I think it's right. But the main point of the video was, for the technology to be as invisible as possible and as intuitive as possible, so that the focus could be on the work to be done and the outcomes to be generated for these people that were in the video. And I think that's true. I just think that's what people want. And I think, back in the other interesting thing is the video was created in the days before there were digital natives that were like, big at home and in the workforce. And I know, my own children who were, they were actually not digital natives, but because of, my career, they were, because we had we had stuff all over the house, and they would test things with me, and I'd ask them what they thought. And the pattern I always saw was they didn't really ever care how it worked. Okay. Yeah. They had no interest in how it worked. They wanted to know, Dad, what can it do? Show me what it can do. All right. And I think that's the point of the video. This is what the outcomes are. This is what you can do.
Yeah.
I think for me, that video kind of I've talked about how, admins mid to late 90s, early 2000s, we did things because it was easier for us. after I looking back, I can see, after kind of seeing that video and going through it, it started to become more about the user experience and what they're seeing and getting out of it rather than what I am.
Yeah.
So that was I mean, a huge lesson. It took longer than, just watching the video to get it all figured out, but
yeah,
that was a big thing.
Look, I think, every company goes through this trying to figure it out, and every individual, especially, and the more tech oriented and the more you love the technology, the harder it is to break free from it and look back, through the other end of the telescope at it.
Tell you what, I want to do something real quick here, just because I know we're kind of, as usual, running way over time. But I want to show some things that just to kind of capstone this, something that I think is kind of a life lesson, especially for an executive. And this is something we don't always see, especially with companies that have been very successful. And that is things like this. Let me pull this up. And so our friend Rick sent this over last week. So, yeah, I mean, this is just an unusual thing when you really think about it. This is the most critical audience. These are the people that, are going to be like, not always the ones that are the glad handers.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, this is what I was talking about before about love, okay, and caring, all right? It's like, these are the people who talk straight to us.
Right.
Right. And, like as an example, I remember Brian Madden had this post one time where he talked about Citrix being closed because no one blogged and, blah, 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 and everybody was CYA or something, I can't remember how he put it, but I read it and, it really broke my heart to read this. And I called Brad Peterson, not, Brad Peterson on stage, but Brad Peterson, our 7th employee, the holder of most of the core patents on like ICA, for example, all right, and who, is an amazing guy, all right. And I called him, I just trusted him to the bone. And I said, Brad, what do you think? And he looked me in the eye and he said, Mark, he's right. He's right. And I said, okay, how do we fix it? And he said, let's just make some rules and turn everyone loose. And I said, okay. So we made sure the rules fit on one page and we sent them around to everyone without fanfare. And, and look, if you're not listening, you're not learning.
Yeah. No, it's true.
And all of you guys, like all the CTPs, and all the meetings, and, I got to fly by and feel the love and, eventually, become an honorary CTP. But, I know that those that group knows that they're very influential, and really, led us well. That's the way I'll say it.
Absolutely. And I'm going to pull up one final picture just because this one means a lot to me personally. Let me get this on screen here. So, and let me preface this let's set this up. Before I say this, so there was a synergy, and I'm trying to remember which one this was. I think it was 2014.
Okay.
Anyway, very interesting year for a lot of reasons, but you went up on stage and basically just poured out a vision of, we want to leave the world better than we found it.
Yeah.
And, and I want to get into that in a minute, but I wanted to show everybody, obviously you have, pictures of Mark hanging out with big important people, but then there's Mark hanging out with this guy. And so we had a little conversation then, and that was along the lines of, you know what, I'm glad somebody said this. And I was just blown away that someone had the same vision that I did, but in the technology world. And I didn't think it was even possible. In fact, at the time, I was pretty much ready to leave it all behind. And this was a moment that kind of pulled me back in and said, you know what, it's okay to have a vision of leaving the world better than you found it and being in IT. So, yeah.
Awesome. I mean,
yeah,
it's awesome.
And
I remember.
I also have the distinction
that.
of saying that I was able to make Mark Templeton cry, but that's.
Yeah, I mean, imagine a world if everyone got up every single day and thought that, in the, whether it's the smallest act of doing something, it's not the scale, it's the quantity of and the quality of the intent.
And honestly, that's where I go with it all the time.
I want to address something because I'm seeing it going through the comments. Yeah, you get a lot of you people when we were picked as the CTPs, the original and all that. That was what, 15, almost 20 years ago. You have to keep in mind the times. Yes, it's all guys. There were not a lot of women that were putting themselves out there at the time. So please don't. Those photos are old. My God, you look at Brian, me, look at Ron. I mean, well, Rick hasn't changed. He seems to look the same for forever. But you can't. Yeah, 2006. You can't compare those times. I don't think you can. And it's just a whole different world, a whole different internet. So it's. Yeah.
But
I think I think that's exactly right. And the regret is that we weren't being proactive about bringing women and other underrepresented groups in a purposeful way. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so we were sort of being ourselves, open, and I say non-judgmental in the sense of in the sense of someone's race or gender or whatever. Okay, but that's not enough because the world has been just biased toward kind of white guys running everything and doing everything. And so my one regret is that we didn't lead in that area. Okay. Now I think Citrix has done a lot of things in that area since then. Okay. So, I'm just saying that I'm speaking personally now, during my time.
Yeah. That hindsight.
Yeah, because look, if you look on your life and you don't sort of think about things that you either did wrong or things that you wish you would have done better or been ahead on things, you're not being honest with yourself. And if you're not honest with yourself, then you're probably not being honest with a whole lot of people in the world, So I feel strongly that way. And what I've learned since then is that the most important thing to solve this problem is obviously there's STEM and all the things you can do, to plant seeds, okay, with third parties before people join your organization. But then the most important thing is entry-level jobs, okay. And secondly is promotions and development. And so that's where you have to be really purposeful about diversity and inclusion. If you want to have a sustainable diversity inclusion and a culture that just embraces it and it's not something glued on as an initiative.
Yeah. and that's kind of where I was going with this too. It's like there are big things that we do. We want to do big things, but well, like I say all the time, I'm going to put this up on the screen. It's just that important that you just find it. I thought I had it. Wow. Yeah, I guess I don't.
There is one thing I do want to close that conversation with the CTP program. When it was started, it was not a program. It was really just a core group of people that were too vocal, maybe for their own good at times. But yeah, it wasn't the program it was today, and it was not started that way at all. This wasn't, picking people, there was a very specific reason, that core was originally chosen. Nothing more, nothing less, truthfully.
This is the second time in a row in a week. Shoot.
I can't remember what year it was, but I'm going to guess CTP started somewhere around 2003.
I think.
I'm pretty sure, because I'm pretty sure Bob Kruger, who was running, our engineering at the time, who had been at Microsoft a long time, I think he brought the vision for CTP with him from Microsoft, and and I'm pretty sure. All right, Steve is saying 2006, so maybe I'm wrong.
It was after Brian wrote his manifesto. and I remember, because I remember after the first Bri Forum, we were all, it's going to sound funny, we were all brought into a room and told what was happening. But in fact, I still have the letter from Brad saying, hey, congratulations on CTP, blah blah blah. I still have that. It's a very proud moment,
That's
so
cool.
yeah.
I mean, you're CTP, you're an insider. And
yeah, one of the things
And that's
some sort of glitch going on here. But anyway, the one thing I want to say is that there's we could go on for literally hours, and it's one of the things where if we try and address past and things like that, that's fine, but it's what we do moving forward. And the point is that these are little steps. If we're going to leave the world better than we found it, if we're always looking for the big thing, the reality is we're not going to get there. If we're always looking for that big thing that's going to change the world, we're never going to get there. It's about these things, and that's. But if you
ever look at what is the big thing, it is made up of all those little things that were done. It's never in a vacuum a big thing. Absolutely.
Yeah. So here's what I want to do. I want to take the next 2-3 minutes. So get your fingers ready in the chat there, and we are going to just, if you have a favorite memory or something you want to say to Mark, this is a great moment to put that on, and we're just going to put up the chat here and let you guys go at it.
I see some demand from my pups, but they disappeared.
Always the way it goes.
If they come in the area again, I'll grab one of them.
Did everyone just go quiet up on the? There are we.
Yeah. One mentee at a time. I agree with that we really need to be focused on, sort of like Mark was saying, that, even as a leader, sometimes you need to notice things about the people you're leading and say, you know what, you have a better opportunity. I don't want to keep you here, but also as a mentor, sometimes you need to bring people up to that level and kind of leave them better than you found them.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So pour them on. We got just a few minutes left here. And actually, this is a good opportunity too, Mark, if you want to say anything.
Well, I was just going to say, this notion of changing the world, I mean, it really is, it's as much a mindset that leads you to, many, as Jeff was saying, small actions that together, So it's not about, one thing. Like when we made that video, we didn't say, wow, this is going to change the world. No, we said this is going to save our, what's, if we, execute. And so.
Yeah, love it. Just, yeah. Sorry, I'm lost reading the comments now. It's like I'm lost all over the place.
I mean, hey, I've got all at this point. I haven't had dinner, but I'm like, wait. I see.
Boy! So if Mark passes out, that's our fault from keeping him from.
Let me see. I see. Come here, Speedy. Come here, Speed. Come here, Speed. Heidi. They're hanging around out here, but come on over here. Come on over here.
You're being shy.
We're talking about Mark showing up at the data center to pull up floor tiles during a hurricane. Yeah, that's a good show of character. Instead of the CEO running away, he's the guy.
All right. Well, I don't want to disappoint everyone, so that they're camera shy. So I'll just
replaced.
Yeah, everyone's got to have a digital twin. This is the digital twin of one of my pups.
Indeed.
So anyway, but yeah. By the way, they get a kick out of this thing. So when I start this guy up, they just they just go crazy. But as you all can see, I haven't lost my love for gadgets and new ideas and all. And I've really loved and I'm going to get all the chat, right, DJ? I mean, this is all.
Yeah, it's all this is on YouTube as well. I think it'll replay. I do want to highlight one from Chris Rogers. Thanks for the inspiration. Many folks, both here and not, owe you much gratitude for how their careers went. You once said life was connecting dots. You showed many people the right dots to connect.
Thank you, Chris. All I can say is ditto to that. I mean, you all created an amazing life and life experience for me. And, that's why, remember, no rock stars, only rock band.
Right, exactly.
But thank you, Chris, for those beautiful words. And
Indeed.
Yeah. And by the way, all of you that, everyone that interface with customers, if you think about the lives you changed and touched, by someone you made successful at company X, where they had a problem and, someone stood up and said, hey, I've got this idea. And, DJ or Jeff or Steve or Chris or whatever, came in and made it work, and they were heroes. And that made an amazing difference in their career. So I always think of Citrix champions as part of the cult, part of the family, if you will, because they took risks on our behalf, like all of you did.
Yeah, that's one thing I always say. I mean, Citrix built my career. Not working at Citrix, but just being around it, being in the ecosystem, all that stuff. I wouldn't be where I am today without Citrix and you leading Citrix. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, there are lots, thousands and thousands of hands and hearts involved here, so and that's the beautiful thing. And that's really, going back to, kind of the beginning, being part of something bigger than any single one of us.
Yep. Absolutely. So, Mark, final thoughts. We're going to have you back on, I think, but
DJ, I would love it.
Yes, indeed.
I would love it. So, anytime. I mean, all this love and, And as everyone knows, I love a captive audience on top of it. It's, the thing that, really turns me on. But I'd be honored and privileged to be, invited back. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So any final thoughts for us before we send you back to the green room?
Yeah, let's see. Final thoughts. Well, I'd say as a final thought that right now, the world looks more ambiguous than I think, we've ever seen it. And in so many dimensions. And I just want to encourage everyone to, reach into their heart, and have hope and faith, in the goodness that's intrinsic in people, and that it does take sometimes struggle and misalignment and a lot of things to get through. But, having that hope and that faith is more important now than ever, especially that we've been locked down and, isolated and all. And so I just want to, leave everyone with the message of hope and faith and, and so put your love out there. Keep putting your love out there. That's what we need now more than ever in this world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mark, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Jeff, DJ, thank you. Such a privilege. Thanks.
It was our privilege.
Good
night, everyone. Thank you. And I can't wait to read all the chat.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot. I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Jeff.
Well, how do you want to do this?
Your final thoughts, and I'll close this out.
You sure? Because I got things I want to say too.
All right, go for it.
Well, I mean, I don't. What do you say after Mark for a final thought?
Yeah, right. So yeah,
it's great because it's refreshing. I mean, he, as a CEO, as a person, has been just so great and everything. It's, he has affected so many of our lives and careers and everything. I don't have anything to say really. I mean, one thing I do want to say though is not so much as a final thought is you have the picture of him and the CTPs.
Mm-hmm.
I have regretted to this day that I had to miss that meeting. It's just one of those things. It's like, really, seriously? But it is what it is. It was what it was.
Indeed. And I'll just say before we close this out, we're going to take a little break. We're going to take some time off. Jeff and I have some projects we want to work on, some videos for the channel, but we're going to take about a month or so off just to kind of reframe and things like that. So we definitely welcome your suggestions, and your support has been wonderful over this last almost year. We've been doing this almost every single week for almost a year. And so unfortunately we just need a little bit of a break, some recharge time. And so in order to leave the world better than found it, you can't serve from an empty cup, right? It's just not possible. So we're going to take some time to recharge, but we wanted to let you guys know that we are going to take a little break. But yeah, it's not
we are, I mean, we are coming back. You are going to see other content coming from us. But in the end, for me personally, I've never made it hidden. I gotta get a job. I gotta get, that part of my life in order to be able to focus properly on this and what we are doing. And really, if there was no other sign that what DJ and I have been doing has been impactful, it's Mark, bringing that up and saying it and everything. And So we do want to continue, but and we will be, but it just needs some time to take care of the personal stuff, get some other stuff going, and we will be back because we have people that we're bringing on. I've already got a list, which I haven't told DJ about. So so we will be back.
Absolutely.
We'll be back.
And a couple of things, just housekeeping things. We'll be putting up a podcast of these episodes soon, so watch for that. And then, like I said, we're going to do some other content that's more learning based, but we definitely want to continue doing these. And so, if you have somebody you think wants to be on or should be on this show, let us know, and then poke them to poke us, that sort of thing. Absolutely. So, thank you all for being here today. Dang it, I knew this was going to happen. It means a lot to me personally. I like Esther, feel like I was very late to the party of getting out there and involved. And so it's very, very edifying to see this. And part of the reason that I need a break is that not only for recharge, but there's some personal projects that I have going on that are really involved in this vision of leaving the world better than I found it. And those need to come out. And I believe that now is the time. And so I'll be taking some time to do that. So you might see some different content from me coming up very soon. So don't be shocked, but that is coming. So anyway, we want to thank you guys. I am just very grateful. I'm also 15 minutes late to a mastermind, so I'm going to have to just let this go. So we do thank you all for being here, and we will see you soon. Make sure you follow us on LinkedIn, subscribe to the YouTube channel, so that way you get a notification whenever we are back on, or when we ever have other content that's coming out for pre-recorded stuff that we're putting out. So make sure you get subscribed there. And other than that, in all these things you're doing out there, leave it better than you found it.
Thank you, everybody. Love y'all.
Thank you for joining us for another edition of Thrivecast. We truly hope you've enjoyed the experience and have learned a lot from it. Now, what we'd want from you next is to join us at thrive-it.com, where you can get subscribed to our multiple channels, get subscribed to our newsletter, and do more to get yourself to where you want to be in your career and your life in information technology. If there's anything we can do to help you, please give us an email at support@thrive-it.com.